call this meeting to order. First of all, I want to check and make sure we have a quorum. Do we have a quorum?
Yes.
Okay, we do have a quorum. Couple of comments as we introduce this meeting today. First of all, Regent Duvall will be joining by Zoom, so he will not be here present with us. Regent Pacheco will be running a few minutes late, but she will arrive here a little later in the morning. Just as a reminder to the regents, only committee members, official committee members can second a motion, and only official committee members can vote on a motion as we move through here. We do have, as usual, when we're doing these meetings, a live stream at the ABOR Live link, which can be found on our website. As we get underway this morning, let me just remind you of kind of the issues that we're going to deal with today. First of all, we're going to have Superintendent Hoffman report on her activities and what she's been doing, and I want to thank the superintendent. She's been loyal at attending as many of our meetings as she possibly can. She is an active member of our committee, and we appreciate your being here, Superintendent Hoffman. We'll also deal with an update on allied health from Northern Arizona University. We'll be dealing with the online issues one more time, and metrics, and hearing report from our staff who've been working with individuals on each of the campuses, along with commentary from the campuses on the challenges associated with really creating quality online experiences for students who really come from quite different backgrounds than traditional students. We'll also hear about new academic programs and units from the University of Arizona and Arizona State University, and we'll address several ABOR policies. I will note that Regent Brewster is here with us. I don't know that we have Regent Goodyear, but welcome, Regent Brewster. Since this is your first official meeting, the chair and I get to welcome you together to be a part of this. We're very happy to have you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I feel very welcome and greatly appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Regent Brewster, for being here. Now, let me begin with approval of the minutes. Does anyone have any questions or comments or changes to the minutes? If not, I move that the committee approve the minutes from the March 24th, 2022 Academic Affairs and Educational Attainment Committee meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
I hear a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. We'll now have an update from the Department of Education. Superintendent Hoffman.
Thank you, Chair Penley. Good morning, regents and university members. I started adding a slide presentation to go with my report, so hopefully that helps everyone. I personally love to have a visual, but just want to start off by saying good morning, and we can go on to the next slide. And this morning, I do want to be highlighting some of our the federal funding investments that we've been making in some of our priority areas, and as I go along, you'll hear me call out some of our new investments and partnerships with our post-secondary partners as well. And so one of our big priorities has, of course, in partnership with you all, has been on strengthening our teacher and educator pipeline. Go on to the next slide, please. And so excited, this was announced in 2021, but then I went on maternity leave, so I did want to make sure to share with this committee and to share my excitement around partnering with NAU and the Arizona K-12 Center to launch the first ever teacher residency program. We've also partnered with the Arizona K-12 Center to provide a high quality teacher mentoring throughout our state. So with the Arizona K-12 Center, they pair mentors with first-year teachers who works directly with teachers in the classroom to help with our teacher retention. Then again, with the teacher residency program, we have modeled this after medical residency types of programs, and looking across the country at other teacher residency programs, they show demonstrated success with educator retention and in student achievement. So we were really excited to be a partner in this. And if we go to the next slide, we just received information about the first cohort, which will be beginning this coming new school year, just in a couple months now. And so they announced that the first cohort will have 30 people in it. And so people who are a part of the teacher residency program already have their bachelor's degree in a different field, and then when they complete the program, they will have their master's degree in education. And I was excited to hear that over half of the cohort identify as people of color, and also 1/3 are male. So it's really good to get a more diverse teacher workforce through this program. And I look forward to being a part of the inaugural celebration kickoff in Flagstaff this July. Next slide, please. And I wanted to provide an update on the Math Momentum program. I've shared about this one before. In 2021, ADE partnered with ASU Digital Prep to create the Math Momentum program. And so there's been really close collaboration between ASU Digital Prep and the math team in the department. And this is aimed to elevate math achievement in our students. And we do know from the couple years of pandemic that we did see the sharpest decline in math achievement for students. So this is why this has been such a priority for us. So really excited to share some of the results that we have so far. And so this data is indicating that we have a 12.6% growth for our students who are considered at or above grade level, and as well as for a 9.5% reduction in the students who are considered to be 2 or more grade levels below. So I know it's a lot of data points, but we like to look across the different indicators to see how our students are doing. And they also noted for us that our rural students are benefiting the most from this program. So that's really exciting. Go on to the next slide. And then I wanted to provide one specific example of one of the schools that Math Momentum is working into to give an example of how this looks. And so one of our rural schools is the Coyote Springs Elementary School, which is in the Humboldt School District, which is in Prescott Valley. And this Math Momentum serves approximately 160 students in 5th and 6th grade. And the ASU's Math Momentum teacher, whose name is Beverly Boss, she pushed in and taught the math curriculum using Google Meet, and she teaches 2 groups of students during each block of math for a total of 6 live sessions a day. So this is essentially a virtual teacher teaching math to our students in Prescott Valley. And then the ASU and the ASU Digital Prep and the Coyote Springs teachers also meet on a weekly basis to discuss their plan. So we have strong collaboration between the ASU teachers and the local teachers. And through this partnership, they have already have wonderful demonstrated success through their diagnostic testing. So the typical student growth ranged from 37 to 54%, 54 points up from where they started, and they are exceeding their expectations on their exact path assessment. So just wonderful success from this partnership. Go ahead to the next slide. And of course, a favorite topic for everyone here, post-secondary access and attainment. And we are, again, so grateful for the partnerships in our post-secondary state institutions to be able to support our students' transition into college and career. Next slide. And I wanted to highlight, for this one, I would recommend if you have a minute to check out the website just to get a sense for it. I don't want to spend too much time going through the website, but we did recently launch a new website for our Education and Career Action Plan, which every student is required to complete when they're in high school. But this new website does allow students to begin working on their ECAP, their plan, as early as middle school, and they can put in all of their achievements and coursework and their goals so that it keeps track as they go on from middle school through high school. And even if the student transfers schools, their account will follow them. So, and parents can access this as well, as parents and teachers can work with the student on this. So I think it'll be a really great tool for them. And we did work with the business community as well as our school counselors and the CTE, the Career and Technical Education leaders, to develop this new website for serving our students with this tool. Next slide, please. And I'm really proud of, through our work, both with our state lawmakers in adding additional state funding as well as with COVID relief funding, that we, to date, have been able to reduce the student-to-school counselor by 20% now, which is huge. When I started in 2019, the student-to-school counselor ratio was roughly 900 students for every one student, and now we're at roughly 716 students for every one school counselor. And so I know many of you have partnered with us on this as well, and really happy we're moving in the right direction for Arizona students. Next slide. And then most recently, we have been in the process of allocating our federal funds out of the American Rescue Plan. And so this was the third round of federal COVID relief funding, and we have worked aggressively with our stakeholders to identify priorities and then set up an arduous state procurement process for community organizations and school entities to apply for this bucket of grant funding. And we did have over $120 million to allocate through the American Rescue Plan funding. So I'm excited. We've been announced the recipients of the ARP funds on a rolling basis. So I'm going to highlight some of the announcements that we've made to date. Next slide. And we've been bucketing these announcements, trying to make these more digestible, since again, there's so many partnerships to announce. But one of our key priority areas has been serving our students' physical and mental health. And so one that I'd like to highlight, again, I'll be pointing out our partnerships with our post-secondary institutions. So very excited that one of our recipients was ASU's Mary Lou Fulton Teacher College. They received funding to implement a program called Play On. And this is an after-school enrichment program that will be provided at 14 elementary schools in the Mesa Public Schools. And it promotes mental and physical health through active and inclusive games. And for supporting our students with disabilities, as well as how we're the organizations that applied for funds to support literacy. Again, here's the list, and I'm happy to answer questions about any of these, or if you go to our website where we have the full list, you can see a description. I won't spend too much time on each investment, but wanted to make sure to highlight these as well, with the Autism United and Special Olympics, United Way, Child's Play, Arizona PBS in these areas. Go to the next slide. And then most recently, to support our Native American students and families, these are investments in the University of Arizona's College of Education is receiving $1.2 million for its Indigenous Student Outreach, Access, and Resiliency program, which is called Native SOAR. And this also establishes a comprehensive multi-generational mentoring program that centers on the needs of Native American students through the P20 education system. Thank you, U of A. Then for some of our more local education recovery efforts, these were different entities, different cities, school districts, at the county education level that applied for funds to serve their communities. So one to highlight here is the city of Tempe. Their Human Services Department received grant funding to provide college and career readiness support services for underrepresented middle and high school students who live or attend school in Tempe and the surrounding areas. This will include individualized college and career advising, help with the FAFSA, and also work-based learning opportunities to support students' post-secondary and career goals. Next slide. Another passion for this group I know is around STEM education. And so just again to highlight here the partnership with ASU. This is with their Center for the Center for Science and Imagination, which their plan, this investment will support their STEM education ecosystem and prepare teachers to deliver high quality hands-on STEM activities through professional development. Next slide. And then in supporting career and civic learning, we provided the Center for the Future of Arizona with 2 grants as well. They had 2 different proposals that will also be strengthening career paths and helping develop students' leadership skills, for example, through the school participatory budgeting process, which is helping them to have that opportunity to really feel and experience democracy hands-on in their local community. Next slide. And then for supporting career development, here's a few more through Junior Achievement, JAG, and Arizona Business and Education Coalition, also supporting a sustainable pipeline for industries from starting at the student level all the way up through their careers, making sure they're career ready. So that is it for today as far as our investments out of the federal funds. And again, we're making these announcements on a rolling basis. So if you want to learn about them as they're announced, you can follow my official social media channels, or we do have a website that has the whole list with descriptions of each one. And we do put out press releases for each one of these buckets of announcements so that we try to get the word out about all these amazing partnerships. And then we will be, of course, tracking the results of each of these programs so that we can help to amplify which programs are working best, and because some of them are really would be wonderful to have some state funding to sustain these in the long term, and as well as seeing how some of these really innovative programs like the Math Momentum program, seeing their success and being able to amplify that as a promising practice. And thank you so much for the time.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Hoffman. Questions or comments? Regent Herbold.
How wide is the math program that you described? Is it statewide?
Yes, it's statewide, and they are targeting schools that have demonstrated struggles with recruiting and retaining math teachers and have lower math performance scores on their state assessments. And so a lot of the districts they serve are rural, but it's not exclusively rural or either. We could provide you with a comprehensive list if you're interested.
Do you have any trouble getting the teachers to endorse and to implement?
Well, some of these schools don't have a math teacher at all, which is why then we have the ASU Prep Digital teacher teaching the math class virtually. And then they work with the local educators or sometimes the paraprofessional who's supporting the students in the classroom. It is an opt-in program. We're not forcing this program on anyone. And so there does have to be the local buy-in and interest to participate.
And how's that going?
It's going great. I know the ASU Prep Digital told us they have a wait list of districts that want to participate in this program, and right now they're just limited by the amount of funding they have.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Regent Herbold. It was one of my topics to ask the superintendent about as well. Just to see the improvement at or above grade level in an area like math is really wonderful. And I appreciate your calling attention to the work that ASU has done with digital prep on that. Board members who've been around for a while will recall that one of our goals for at-risk compensation for President Crow had to do with expanding the number of schools across the state for which ASU had a relationship and was providing those digital prep courses, not only in math, but in other areas. So to hear your report today makes me especially pleased, since this is all done with a collaboration with your office, with what the board has done, and certainly what Michael Crow, president of ASU and Arizona State University, have done. So thanks very much for that. Other questions or comments from board members? Yes, Regent, I'm sorry, President Robbins.
May I make a comment?
But of course, sir.
Thank you.
By all means.
Well, I obviously am a big fan also of ASU Digital Prep, and hopefully one day U of A can have something similar. I was just going to comment on, thank you very much for your support of Native SOAR. And just to highlight, you probably know this, but Paul Luna and the Helios Foundation were a group that originally made the first commitment to Native SOAR at the University of Arizona. So they've done very well, and thank you for your support.
That's super. Just another example, I think, President Robbins, of the superintendent and the department working closely with us. One thing that you did not mention, Superintendent Hoffman, that I want to thank you for is what you've done on data. Both in talking with our staff at the Board of Regents office and also in my role as senior fellow with the Center for the Future of Arizona, I've heard repeatedly enormous compliments to you and your staff for what you've done to really work on getting data out so that we can track students more effectively in the state of Arizona. And that has been a very huge increase under your leadership as superintendent, so thank you. One final comment is on the counselors. I've met with a number of high school students, and when I met with a group in Uvalde, repeatedly what I heard from the students was the need for more counselors. So to see a 20% increase is a really good thing. I know, and this is my half-empty glass, I'm afraid, we'd love to see more, and I know
Definitely.
that's going to take more money. So thanks for what you've done so far.
Thank you.
Any other comments, folks? If not, we'll move on. Thank you very much, Superintendent Hoffman. The next item on our agenda is a report on allied health from Northern Arizona University, which Provost Puglisi will be handling. Let me remind the board that our last meeting, Jim Rounds, with his Rounds Consulting Group, presented a report on statewide needs on allied health. And with that introductory comment, which I hope is brief enough, I'll turn to you, Provost.
Thank you, Regent Penley, and thank you, everyone. We really appreciate the opportunity to present to you NAU's plans for expansion of our allied health programs. Today, I'm going to address the NAU's complete portfolio of programs in health professions and behavioral health. This expands on the information we conveyed to you in February outlining expansion plans for a particular subset of our allied health programs. NAU's plans for investment in allied health and behavioral health programs is one important element of our bold agenda to be a driver of prosperity and equity across communities in Arizona. Through expansion of our programs, NAU will contribute a variety of healthcare professionals to efforts to build an integrated healthcare system that will improve access and quality, yielding improvements in per capita cost, population health, and patient experience of care, the so-called triple aim. Next slide, please. Over several years, NAU has developed a robust portfolio of allied health programs. Our programs to date have been offered at our campuses in Flagstaff, in Yuma, the Phoenix Bioscience Core Facility, Tucson, and in Fort Defiance. Some of our programs are delivered in online and hybrid formats. We have substantially grown our programs in nursing, physical therapy, and behavioral health. Collectively, NAU programs have enrolled over 1,500 students since 2012. During the last 5-year period through 2021, NAU graduated 765% more BSNs, that is Bachelor of Science in Nursing graduates, than in the period 2002 to 2006, just to give you some frame for how much we've grown our programs. Graduate level degrees awarded increased over 880% for the most recent 5 years as compared to 2002 and 2006. Next slide, please. NAU programs produce health professionals highly likely to remain in Arizona and to serve our residents and communities. Our programs also, along the way, provide services to Arizona communities through clinics, supervised clinical hours, and varied practice settings, totaling over 650,000 hours per year. With this substantial foundation, NAU is poised to be a leader in producing high-value allied healthcare practitioners and to address critical shortages in physical and behavioral health professionals in Arizona. Today, we will outline our bold plans for the next 5 years. Next slide, please. By 2027, NAU is planning an ambitious expansion of health programs which will address shortages of key health professionals, increase community service across the state, and contribute to economic development and improve community health. We plan to add 9 new program sites and grow our total enrollments by over 1,600 students per year, or by 181%. Next slide, please.
Can I ask you a question? So that's 1,600 students times 5 by the end of the 5 years?
We're going to grow our annual enrollments by 1,600 per year by 2027.
That's a big number.
Yeah,
That's
Yes,
good,
it's
thank
a
you.
big number.
yeah. I think I'm on the right slide now. I got
Sorry,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I was like, wow, that's a big number.
just anyway. Actually, it should be the slide before, I think. There. Okay, thank you. Stay there. The Rounds Consulting analyses that you saw at our last convening, I think, make clear the pressing need for health and behavioral health professionals in Arizona. This assessment is corroborated by the Health Resources and Services Administration, as well as by the United Health Foundation, which ranks Arizona 41st among U.S. states in primary care providers and 47th in behavioral health providers. The Rounds analysis also indicates that the investment in expansion of allied health programs will yield substantial returns to the state of Arizona. Economic benefits will accrue to state and local communities alike. Perhaps most significantly, expansion of NAU programs will increase access to quality and culturally responsive healthcare and thereby improve health outcomes and equity across the state. Next slide, please. The most substantial of our growth plans is in the area of nursing. We will focus expansion on our accelerated program, which yields licensure-ready graduates within a period of 12 months. NAU will add 3 new accelerated program sites at our new North Valley site, in Tucson, and in Prescott Valley, and expand our current accelerated program in Flagstaff. We will also be moving our Fort Defiance BSN program to Tuba City to increase cohort size and leverage our partnership with Tuba Regional Medical Center. This program in particular enrolls a high proportion of Native American students who remain in the region to practice in indigenous communities. We are also expanding our family nurse practitioner program in Flagstaff and adding a new psychiatric nurse practitioner program to add to the stock of behavioral health professionals. An MS in nursing leadership, quality, and patient safety rounds out our nursing expansion plans. At the same time, we're going to continue to build alternative pathways to the BSN through our online RN to BSN program and our concurrent enrollment program. Overall, we'll grow in clinical initial licensure eligible graduates by 231% by the year 2027. Next slide, please. We are expanding our speech-language pathology program in Flagstaff and adding a new site in Yuma this year. That will start this summer. Both programs will incorporate extensive training and culturally responsive practices which have been shown to be especially important in speech-language and audiology practice. Next slide, please. As you know, NAU has a highly competitive physical therapy program that has earned an excellent national reputation. We will grow this signature program by adding a hybrid platform that will create flexible access for students, and we intend to add a new program site at our Yuma campus. Overall, we will grow annual enrollments in physical therapy by 250% by 2027. Next slide, thank you. Occupational therapy will add a hybrid option from its base at the Phoenix Bioscience Core Facility. This will grow enrollment capacity for that occupational therapy program by 167%. Next slide, please. At this point, NAU is the only public university in Arizona that offers the MS in physician assistant studies. Our highly successful program has already expanded admissions. For future growth, we're going to add 2 new program locations, Flagstaff and Yuma. Physician assistants are important in the mix of healthcare professionals and community-based practice. Physician assistants enhance the impact of primary care doctors, which, as you know, are in very short supply in Arizona. NAU's additional PA program sites will grow our enrollment capacity in this area by 250% through 2027. We're also exploring the addition of an online capstone doctoral program in physician assistant studies, which would serve a growing demand for upgraded credentials for practitioners in this area and help us generate revenue to support clinical program expansion in physician assistant studies. To address the critical and growing shortage of behavioral health professionals in Arizona, NAU plans expansion in several of our behavioral health programs at the master's and doctoral levels. We will grow our programs in clinical psychology, counseling, and social work. Our master's level counseling programs produce graduates who practice in a variety of settings, including schools, medical and behavioral health facilities, and private practice. We will expand the programs in clinical mental health counseling, clinical counseling, and school counseling to new sites in Tucson, Yuma, and North Valley, which will increase annual enrollments by 130% over this period. Next slide, please. Our doctoral level clinical counseling and school psychology programs will grow by 160% by 2027. We will expand our programs in these areas in Flagstaff and at our North Valley locations. Next slide, please. On the heels of very rapid growth in our undergraduate and graduate social work programs, we will expand further our online and on-campus MSW program. The Advanced Standing MSW program offers a 12-month pathway to the MSW for students who have earned an accredited Bachelor of Social Work. NAU's social work programs that emphasize preparation for practice in diverse, rural, and border region communities, addressing critical needs throughout the state. Our partnership with the Department of Child Safety supports BSW students who gain special training and preparation for work in Arizona Child Protective Services. We're pleased to be expanding that partnership in this program to our undergraduate program in psychological science. Next slide, please. NAU's New Economy Initiative proposal for fiscal year 23 is forecast to yield substantial returns on the state's investment. The investment will create jobs, increase income and economic output, and grow state and local tax revenues. The New Economy Initiative and additional funds that are requested for nursing are essential to move forward with NAU's ambitious plans in allied and behavioral health and to deliver the full range of benefits to the people of Arizona. Next slide, please. In addition to requisite funding, there are a number of considerations to navigate over the next 5 years to achieve these goals. All of our programs that we propose to expand have specialized accreditation and distinct requirements for adding new sites or increasing enrollments in existing sites. Talent acquisition and retention, expansion of facilities, and clinical placements are the key requisites for our success going forward. Development of enhanced simulation facilities will reduce the clinical hours required and the pressure that we have on placement capacity. Simulation facilities will also support continuing education for practicing healthcare professionals. Strong partnerships with healthcare such as Northern Arizona Healthcare, Dignity Health, and Yuma Regional Medical Center are central to our strategy for expansion. NAU's college and program leaders are geared up for this work ahead. They understand the need for creativity and innovation to meet the needs of Arizona communities. Leaders and faculty are passionate about healthcare education and the quality of the professionals that our programs produce. We thank the board and the leaders of Arizona for the support in this bold endeavor. Thank you, and I'm happy to entertain questions.
Thank you, Provost Pugliese. That was very helpful, very interesting, and really pleasing to those of us who've wanted to see the expansion. So to Chair
Happy to
Manson's
hear that.
question earlier, I think all of us are really pleased. Comments and questions from members of the board? Chair Manson.
Thank you. So I do have a question. I mean, this is a fabulous plan. One of the things that, and you mentioned it, is the accreditation issue. And
Yes.
how much, I mean, given, you know, you've got a 5-year plan here that is a significant increase in enrollments. What we've heard for past years is that the accreditation issue was really the significant limiting factor on those enrollment increases. What has something changed, or are we just in the process, or how do you get to where you say you're going, given those limitations?
Well, the shortest answer, it's a little bit of strategy and time frame as well. Because we are looking at, well, let me start with the strategy. The strategy is, number one, we're talking about different accreditation bodies for the different program areas, and some are more restrictive than others.
Okay.
Nursing is less restrictive in that way. I mean, we have criteria that we, or standards that we have to meet, but there isn't the same kinds of, breaks, I guess, on program expansion that you have in some of the other areas. The other factor is that the strategy is adding different program sites as a way to gain more enrollments as opposed to expanding cohorts, which is more restricted by some of the accreditation bodies, such as that for physician assistant and physical therapy, just to cite 2 examples, than it is if we add an entire new site. The lift involved in getting accreditation for a new site is a heavier lift, meaning there's a more substantial documentation and process required, but there isn't the same kind of constraint on how frequently you can do that, and how long you have to wait after, what I learned, for example, when I started is that we had grown our physician assistant studies program during the year that I started this last year, and that meant that if we want to grow that particular program site, we would have to wait for a period of 4 years before we could do that again. But we
you
can
don't
add a
have- but
new
you-
site.
Gotcha, okay.
That's the strategy. So a little
Okay.
bit of that, and then the other thing, the key issue will be the simulation facilities that I mentioned, which will help us enormously with the balance of the requirements of clinical hours for these programs and the concerns that I know we all have about securing appropriate clinical placements for students in these program areas.
So given that the plan right now initially is to open new sites, which is a heavier lift but a shorter time frame, no time frame limitation on it per se.
Yeah.
Are we also concurrently looking to approach that 4-year time frame on the current sites so that we can expand those as quickly as we can, given that we know we have a massive shortage of these professionals in the state?
Yes, I mean, we can look at that to the extent that we're, able to bring on the talent that we need and, and can sustain our alignment with those accrediting bodies that would give us the standing or position to, do things like increase cohort sizes, yes. So we could be doing that. We are going to be doing that, of course, in nursing, in PT, but in the case of PT, we're looking at doing that largely through a hybrid option that we think gives us a lot more opportunity to expand in a way that would provide greater access to people that might be professionals and other already working and place-bound, and it also reduces the impact on the facilities requirements that would be necessary to support a program of that sort.
And my final comment is I would encourage you all, I know that this falls well within the parameters of the New Economy Initiative, and that we look long and hard at how much funding you need to make this happen.
Thank you.
And that we make the appropriate conversations with the legislature happen sooner rather than later.
Thank you so much. We do appreciate that great support. That's essential.
Before I turn to Regent Duvall, I just want to compliment you and President Cruz Rivera. I mean, for a number of years, this board has been calling on NAU to increase the number of allied health graduates. And so to hear your responses to Chair Manson about a strategy with alternative sites, I'm just really, really pleased. And I just compliment you and the President on what you've done to move this ahead. And with that, I turn to Regent Duvall. Do you have a comment or question, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I'm sorry I can't be with you, but you all should be thankful that I'm not. Still in contagious stage. Look, the two of you have said what I was going to say. This is so in line with our fiduciary mission to meet the workforce needs of the state of Arizona. So in line with NAU's objectives to meet the workforce needs in the health space, that I just couldn't be more thrilled that you're doing it, and that by the breadth of your ambition, which, given that you've given us very specific numbers, tells us that you have confidence that you can meet it. We'll hold you to it, but we'll do it with a lot. We'll do it with a lot of applause, because this is ambitious. It's bold. It's just simply right on. And I was also going to ask the same question that Regent mentioned did. I really am eager to see how the balance sheet's going to work. We will support it, to be sure, but to what extent it can be self-supporting with tuition and other sources, to what extent you need other sources, either institutional or legislative, and look forward to working with you to get to yes on all of that.
Thank you for that. And I just truth in advertising, I have to say that we are in fact pushing the envelope with the faculty and the leaders in these program areas, who tend to be very prudent in thinking about how to expand their programs. We have very high pass rates on our licensure outcomes for these programs. They are very concerned about preserving, those very strong indicators of quality. They worry. We've had conversations about what the impact of incorporating simulation clinical hours to a greater degree than what we have been, in that. And I just want to give that group credit. I've spent a lot of time interacting with our faculty and our program leaders in those areas that have a lot of trepidation But they are in fact ready to roll if we can, provide them with the necessary elements that they need, to pursue these plans. So I just want to thank them for their collaboration with us.
Well, thanks for that explanation, Provost Pugliese, because those of us who know faculty understand they're concerned about quality. So please convey the board's compliments to the faculty for their willingness to move ahead and address a very important need in the state of Arizona. Regent Herbold?
What percent of this can be implemented now and is not waiting for, and is not waiting for accreditation?
Well, as I mentioned, we are able to put in place some things right away without as much wait. So our speech-language therapy, our speech pathology program in Yuma is starting this summer, for instance. We've already got a timeline in place for our occupational therapy hybrid program that would be in the next year. Nursing, we can expand very quickly. We're going to be, if we can hire, I will say we have, I assume we share this challenge with our colleagues at University of Arizona and ASU. It's a real challenging time to hire nurses, faculty, as well as leaders, and we are in the business of hiring a new executive director for our School of Nursing. But assuming that all those pieces fall in place, we can expand our nursing programs quickly, and we'll be doing so over the course of this coming year. I don't know, I can't tell you exactly what percent, but I could get back to you on that.
Well, I think what's important is to get it going, even though if it's not complete, so to speak, getting the word out, both within the faculty as well as in the public, that this is the thrust is so important. One of the things that has bothered me over the course of the last 6 weeks about NAU is that there have been so many articles in the press saying to the public that NAU is free, okay? And I really want NAU to be excellent in something, so they really stand out, so that when somebody asks one of these regents, tell me about NAU, well, let me tell you, they are par excellence in regard to allied health and going from there. But this is a huge opportunity to rally the university around a focus of excellence. Yeah, you want to, treat the disadvantaged students the way you are, which is good, but don't make that the overall thrust of the university, because to some people, what that says is the standards of that school aren't quite up to snuff, in my estimation, and that I guess I better consider other places. So how do you react to what I said?
Well, NAU is not free. As you well know, it takes a lot of resources to run a university as robust as NAU is. We do have a commitment to access, but that sits very squarely alongside our great commitment to excellence. In fact, you're going to be hearing at the June board meeting about our plan, which the title of which is Elevating Excellence. It's all about our academic and other forms of excellence in research and community engagement and so forth. And as I was saying, one of the things about developing the plans in particular for allied health, behavioral health, is that, a requirement to make this work, to get the collaboration of our faculty, is that these be excellent programs that produce the highest quality of healthcare professionals who will have capabilities that are well aligned with the needs of the state of Arizona. And so I would say that I think it's a false dichotomy for our public to think that just because we're trying to be accessible and affordable to those that may have not had access otherwise, that means that somehow we're compromising excellence to do that. We're being as efficient as we can be and being as smart as we can be in allocating our constrained aid capabilities to make that possible.
Very exciting, thanks.
Thank you.
Regent Mata?
Thank you. Thank you, Provost Pugliese. That's a really excellent briefing. I want to ask you, since we have a decline of 1.7% of the enrollment, I believe that all these new programs and all could growth, and I know it's not a promise, but strategically, this is going to grow the numbers.
It will. It will contribute some to the numbers over time, yes.
Thank you.
Superintendent Hoffman, yes.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you. I want to echo what everyone else has already said as far as just how wonderful it is to see this ambitious plan. And I wanted to call out how appreciative I was of seeing the percentage of students recruited from the number of Arizonans, as well as how many then stay in Arizona to work. And in future presentations, I'd like, and from our other universities as well, would love to see that broken down by by all the programs. I saw it was PA and OT, I think was on that slide. But would love to see that for each program to make sure that that continues to be a priority and that that's maintained.
Okay, thank you. We'll look at that.
Other comments or questions from members of the board? Just two final ones from me, if you don't mind, Provost Pugliese. One of them is just to reinforce what Regent Herbold has said. I love the fact that NAU is positioning itself as preeminent in accessibility. I laud you for doing that. If we're to achieve the kind of workforce that we need for a new economy, we need that level of accessibility that raises the attainment rate in Arizona. That is why I have been so supportive of the Arizona Promise Scholarship and supported by the efforts of a number of our senators and representatives to increase the funding for that. At the same time, NAU has taken on that goal very specifically. But I also encourage you to do what Regent Herbold was saying. Among your messages, tell the story of virology and its excellence. Tell the story of forestry and its relationship not only to our forests, but to our water resources and the role that NAU has in that. Tell the story of the Department of the School of Education and the excellent teacher preparation and fine music program. Tell all of those stories along with, and I'm sure you know many more than I know, but those are the ones that I know to call out at NAU, along with that preeminence and accessibility. Thank you very much for your presentation today. One final comment. You spoke about using the Northwest Valley location on I-17 for the expansion of a number of programs. When I look at this metropolitan area with 80 to 85% of the population living in it and growing very rapidly, we have obviously on the east side of town the programs that ASU has, as well as the Gilbert program that University of Arizona has started. But I would encourage NAU to look at that marketplace and look at locations that really address the needs of residents who aren't in Tempe, Arizona, Gilbert, Arizona, or in the northwest part of the metropolitan area. There are important needs there as well. And if I were you, I'd come back to this board and tell us what you're planning to do in some of those areas as well. Okay?
Thank you. We are indeed looking at that. We are just looking at what's, at this point in the short run, what is expedient for our ability to expand these programs rapidly.
And
So-
you have space in
Yeah,
that
we have
facility
it,
that
and
I've
we're gonna,
visited.
we're,
and-
need to renovate it, but we can renovate it
Great.
and set it up properly to support these programs.
Okay, great. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Now we're going to turn to online metrics, a topic, as I noted earlier, that this board has addressed before. And let me just repeat some things that I've tried to say. We want to work with our provosts and with the universities and the leadership in online education at the three universities to really address these metrics. Our desire is to have aspirational metrics that challenge you to do even more than you're doing at this point in terms of the quality of the learning experience. Recognizing that these students are very different students who step in and stop out in ways that other students do not. But today, our purpose is to hear from Dr. Kuhn, Dr. Comrie, and those of you who are involved in online education like Dr. Regier, and understand better both the challenges and where we should head in really creating the kind of metrics that will challenge each of our universities and each of the programs to do even better in a quality learning experience in this area. ASU and UAGC both have very, very large groups of students. And while there are other programs in the state at NAU and the University of Arizona these draw our attention to the need for this area. So I'm going to begin, I believe, by turning to you, Dr. Kuhn, is that right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Regent Penley and others. I'm going to just go through a quick presentation on online metrics and where we are and how we've gotten here. You can see from slide 1 that we have been working in earnest for well over a year with the universities on identifying online metrics that make sense for our universities. And you will see that at the last meeting, the metrics were removed from the consent agenda as the regents had asked the universities to look back at a few of the metrics and see if they could increase or improve the targets around those metrics. So myself and the online leads and others at the institutions have been working over the last 6 to 8 weeks on those metric targets. I want to remind everyone that online students are largely adult learners seeking their first degree or further credentials, an additional bachelor's degree or a terminal degree to improve their current careers or seek a new one. Adult learners do not behave as our traditional on-campus students do. They have careers, children, maybe in the military, and many work multiple jobs, therefore the need to attend courses online. And the patterns we see with the course enrollment often follow the patterns that adult life brings with it. For example, many individuals that may work in our public school systems that are seeking their first degree or continuing education may only be able to attend in the summer because they are busy during the traditional school year. Online students also bring in many credits from multiple institutions. They take smaller course loads over an academic year, and it takes longer for most to graduate in these instances. This is the norm in online education. Adult student behavior combined with some younger first-time online student behavior, we are just now beginning to understand how we should and shouldn't measure student success. It's important to note that the age demographics of many of the first-time online students is shifting towards a younger population. Can we go to slide 2, please? The following slide, which you have seen already in your materials, will show you the rapid growth in online enrollments in our state system, in that it has been significant. Since 2018 to 2022, online has grown 86.1%, compared to 1.46% in our campus-based enrollments. Now with more than 70,000 online degree-seeking students, and this excludes UAGC's numbers, online enrollments make up 33.3% of our system-wide degree-seeking enrollment. ASU is now the largest public online provider in the country. Slide 3, please. This slide represents the largest online institutions broken down by public, private nonprofit, and private for-profit based on IPEDS data for 2019-2020. You will note from the chart that the Arizona system is approaching the size of the largest private online institutions. Few of these institutions present metrics that may offer good comps for our system. We have struggled to find persistence and graduation metrics that are relevant and easily understood. Therefore, we will be continuing our discussions with the universities and the regents to ensure that metrics developed will place our institution and our systems as leaders in this space, in the development and use of metrics that are relevant, measurable, easily understood, as they are applied to the success of our students and the quality of our online academic programs, while ensuring that we are mitigating any risk around the state of Arizona, other states that we may have a presence in, and federal compliance guidelines, regulations, and consumer protection regulations. That is the end of my presentation. I will answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Jane. Questions, comments, members of the board? Yeah, Regent Dave.
Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to quickly ask, as we talk about differentiating ourselves as kind of leaders in this space, how we are approaching achievement gap metrics, the ones that we, have at institutions? How can we kind of tailor those to online students, again, and differentiate ourselves from a lot of the other types of
Yeah,
online?
thank you, Regent Dave, for that. We will be continuing to look at these metrics, and we will certainly consider a request to look at the achievement gap in our online learners. I assume the same type of achievement gap that we have measured in our institutional and enterprise-wide metrics. Thank you for that.
Regent Herbold.
What do you think this total online enrollment is going to be in 5 years?
I don't know what it will be, but I do have a suspicion that by this coming fall, our online enrollments will exceed our traditional campus-based enrollments. So, and some of our online enrollment leads are here, and the provosts are here, and they can stand for any questions. We have some members here on Zoom. So if you want to ask ASU and U of A specifically and NAU what they think their growths will be
When we did
over
our
the next 5
briefing, we
years.
talked about doing some research on understanding the overall reputation, so to speak, of online, an online degree versus a on-campus degree. What are you doing in that area? What are you going to?
Well, I have been doing a lot of research in that area, but I also would like the opportunity to work with our online leads at the universities to get their perspective on the reputational aspects around growth in online and our online programs and success and
Why don't we start with
reputation.
you, Dr. Regier, in light of what Jane has just said and the question from Dr. Herbold.
Yeah, thank you, Regent Penley and Regent Herbold. It's a good question. It's one of the things that we dealt with very seriously when we began our intensive program at ASU in 2009, and it's something that we've never forgotten. We wouldn't do anything to damage the overall brand or reputation of the university. In fact, there's no evidence that we have and it's important to remember too, the online is not a program. Online is a modality. And students graduating from our online modalities have exactly the same learning outcomes, whether they're face-to-face or whether they're online. Employers value the characteristics that online students bring. They tend to have, they are a more mature workforce than the typical 22 or 23-year-old undergraduate. They tend to bring more life experience to the table, and they also have incredible skills in terms of time management, because most of them have gone to school while they were also working full or part-time. We've continued to focus, and our ASU brand tracker has shown no diminution in the brand of the university over the 10 years that we've been growing online, from 400 students to the 58,000 that was presented. And so overall, the reputation of the university remains very strong. If anything, online has strengthened the reputation of the university as an innovator in higher education.
Even with technical skills, like engineering and the like, or biology or physical sciences that are really hot these days, a student coming out of a bachelor's degree should have some degree of experience in terms of communications. In fact, there's nothing more important to someone who's going into, an industry or in just about any situation than be able to communicate, convince, rationale development and communication of that rationale. By not having the interaction, the human interaction with other students, as well as, and I'm talking about live interaction, I can't imagine that they aren't missing something. How do you react to that?
Well, my first reaction was when you started to say by not having the interaction with other students, and then you amended it to the live interaction. One of the things that we've emphasized from the outset is engagement of the student. And there are 3 ways to engage. They can engage with content, they can engage with faculty, they need to engage with other students. And we've developed all kinds of tools and processes We use over 250 tools and processes in their online programs now, specifically focused on having students engage with each other and having students engage with faculty. And so the level of engagement in the courses, and remember, all of these things are overseen by an excellent faculty. And faculty are not going to stand for having kind of a second-rate program delivered to online students. And so we've been very careful as we grew our programs over the past 12 years to ensure that the outcomes in all dimensions were equivalent to what we see in the live classroom. Now, there are only a couple of times when we haven't been able to do that, and I point out the biochemistry program in particular, where we just could not figure out with the faculty how to deliver organic chemistry and biochemistry online. And so we allow students to come for 1 week during the summer for intensive lab classes, and they interact with each other and with the faculty, and that's a wonderful hybrid experience, but that's the exception rather than the rule. I'd point out also, for example, that in our electrical engineering program, in years past, the outstanding team award for the capstone project has been won by a group of online students.
You know, from the standpoint of your typical Board of Regent member, I suspect that none of us appreciate the fact of what you just said to the extent that if we had experienced it. And it would be great to somehow put together a presentation that takes a particular course and spends an hour with us to go through what kind of things you're really talking about. And that if it does deliver what you just described, it's more robust than I imagined, okay? And I thought some of that was going on, but not to the extent that you described. It would be, you know, one option is we all have to take a course. But that's pretty time-consuming.
We've got 3,000 of them you can choose
It would be
from.
great to have you elaborate more and show us in the real flesh, you know, what does, no pun intended, but, you know, what this can mean to a student besides just sitting there and clicking boxes in terms of yes, no answer to quizzes and the like.
Regent Herbold, I'd welcome the opportunity along with the other online colleagues. We'd love to do that, and we'd love to present, because I do think that there are incredible misconceptions about what an online student experience is.
Oh, I know
It is
there
not
are.
sitting around in your
Yeah.
pajamas on a couch, reading text and answering a few questions. So
I know a couple major companies that would not dare to interview someone with an online degree versus on campus.
I also, just to react to that also, I think the perception of companies has changed significantly. It's changed over the past 12 years. It's certainly changed dramatically over the past 2 or 3 years. And as I say, now you'll see companies on both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
Some that still won't approach online students, but a whole lot who say, not only are we're embracing the online student
Yep.
because of a set of characteristics that they bring that we value.
Now, were you involved in the setting of the tuition?
Well, I was, I was part of the discussion. I was included in the discussion.
Well, as I recall, and looking it up last night, the course is, the online courses are basically, if you read the rate sheet, it's $550, I believe, per credit hour.
Roughly with some program fees on top of it, yes.
You know, $550 a credit hour, and you're supposed to take 120 credit hours, as I recall, to graduate. That's over $60,000. You make big money on this stuff, because actually the cost, this should be lower. Is it true that this is a real cash cow for you?
Well,
You may not
Let me
want to
see.
admit that, but
well, no, I don't mind answering the question. You know, it is the case that everything we've done in terms of online and Net Plus has had to be sustainable. And it's also true that over the life of the development of the programs, we've returned a substantial residual to the university that they can then use
Sure.
for other things. That's absolutely the case. It's also the case that the tuition for Arizona students is capped at the same amount as it is for in-state students. So an Arizona online student would pay no more than an in-state
I
student.
gotcha. Very helpful. Thanks.
You bet.
And that particular price is done at a loss, as I recall.
Yes, that one is. And by the way, the market price that you discussed is consistent with other programs of our quality.
Right, and I think one of the things that's important for the public to understand is that were it not for the out-of-state student who's paying the $60,000, we could not afford to offer the program to in-state students. So because of low funding from the state, we have no option but to basically deliver these programs at a loss to residents and make up that revenue through either international or out-of-state students. What I'd like to do now, since we're going to run out of time in a moment, is I want to go back to Regent Herbold's request to you, Dr. Regier, and to the other online leads who are a part of this, and suggest that together with Mark and Jane and Andrew and Chad Sampson, who's away this week, you really discuss with the online leads how we could have the kind of opportunity that Regent Herbold just called for, and whether we do that as a part of a committee. And I know Chad Sampson was really pleased that this committee was not probably going to run over as badly as it has in the past. But one option is either in the committee or perhaps even, and we've done this before with other issues, where we've had a special meeting for interested regents outside of the committee meeting, which again, we would announce to the public appropriately on the basis of our requirements for open meetings, but at the same time, give you and the others, Dr. Regier, a chance to really educate all of us who've been away from online programs for some time about what really is going on from a student experience point of view and how those learning outcomes really are achieved with an equivalent positive outcome, or even, as I recall the research, in some cases, more positive outcomes for the online student than the in-person student. So that's what I would call on. Any other quick comments from other online leads? President Robbins?
I would just offer, this is beware the non-combatant because I don't currently teach a course, but I would suggest you go and sit in on classes. I'm sure the professors would welcome you either in person or online. If you're online, you'll be, invariably whisked away into a breakout session where you can sit with students and talk about
That'd be
whatever
super.
question you're assigned in the breakout session. Every time I have done that, I was of no benefit to my study group, but at least you would have the chance to see what it's like.
That would be
It moves
great.
very quickly.
That would be super.
Yeah.
Thanks, President Robbins. Other comments?
Chair Penley?
Yes.
Just with data being such a big, important piece of what we've seen, I'm curious to see the types of degrees that are being delivered in rank order, from the various schools. I would like to understand the breakout of what these online students are going for relative to their school of choice, discipline of choice, and degree of choice. It would be great to see that breakout at some point in time as we look at the great numbers and growing numbers of students going in this direction. What are those programs, degrees they are trying to get?
Regent Mata?
And also, thank you, Regent Penley. And also the demographic, because that is really important with the different generation. Thank you.
If I could comment regarding that, Regent Mon, if I could comment on Regent Dave's original question too regarding the achievement gap. I think one thing that's important to remember is that the back-end data that you gather from online students is vast compared to what you can gather from a face-to-face student, because everything is done electronically, everything goes into databases, and everything can be examined. And so what we started doing very assiduously is taking that data, understanding better how to reduce the achievement gap in certain courses, A, where the achievement gap is very great, and B, that have relatively high stopout rates. And by doing that, we're improving the class obviously for the online students, but those learnings are then transferable to the face-to-face student population as well. And so it's an example where online student population and studying the online student population is helping us improve what happens in the face-to-face population as well.
I think that's also been true in terms of the instruction and the pedagogy around teaching. I hear frequently from faculty who switch to online teaching, who realize they learn a lot more about how to teach what they're doing that then goes back to the classroom, so.
Thanks very much. I see a couple of hands raised. I'm going to start with Regent Duvall. The others who've raised your hands, I can't read your names. So Regent Duvall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And in the interest of time, won't ask for a response now, but I would just like to put out a thought for pondering in future discussion. I've made it before, but it's the right time and place, and this is the right team to put it to. I continue to have a nagging concern that by treating online education the same from a metric standpoint as in-person education, that we may be missing the right strategy. And let me put that a different way. You in the in-person space, you have place as a differentiator. You have campus as a differentiator. In online, you don't have those things. And the competition is much more global. So the pressure to be differentiated, it seems to me, is much more important. And so I just want to pose the question whether or not, in order to create 3 separate programs that are sustainable, should our metrics be driving them to become more similar or more different? And if it is more different, then should we have 3 different sets of metrics as opposed to one integrated set of metrics? You just may have different objectives, different strategies, different pricing, different demography, and I want to make sure that we capture those objectives in how we do our metrics. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Regent Duvall, if I could take a chance at answering that. I agree, all 3 institutions are managing their online programs differently. They are different and they should be distinguished. I would urge you to consider perhaps, because there are many commonalities in online education also, that perhaps we look at it as we have with system-wide metrics and then institutional metrics around online.
Thank you very much, Jane. And thank you, Regent Duvall. Dr. Wilson, I'll call on you next from the University of Arizona.
Yes. Hi, good morning, everyone. I wish I could be there, but like Regent Duvall, health concerns stopped me from being there. I was really looking forward to being there with you all today. What I wanted to really talk about a bit more was, I think a question had come up about whether or not these online degrees, once students receive these degrees, do they have the same credibility, or are they well-received in corporations? And what I would offer to our group here is that not only are they received well, but we have a lot of corporate partners who've worked with us, and ultimately, our students, once they graduate, excuse me, once they graduate, they wind up in corporations. So to have a corporation serve as partners throughout the process and to work with their employees, I think is certainly a validating, tangible effect of the benefits of providing an online education to our students.
Thank you very much, Craig. Dr. Stoner?
Certainly, thank you, and I'll speak quickly. I'm in an airport with lots of background. I echo Dr. Wilson's comments about the corporate partners and what they will be looking for. I would add to that, and I hope this helps respond to the question about what do we see in the next 5 years on enrollments and the trajectory path. I think we're going to see a significant increase in online enrollments, and I think we're also going to see a significant increase in hybrid, thinking about technology enhanced classrooms and offerings as well. Part of that has to do with the pandemic and what we're seeing in shifts already that Dr. Kuhn mentioned regarding lowered ages coming into our programs, especially at NAU. We offer programs that our largest enrollment is the 90-30, in fact, which indicates that students are coming in for that last year. And typically we were about age 34, 33 prior to pandemic. Now we're seeing about 27, right? Age 27. What's happening there? I think that's going to be a very important variable as we move forward. And also thinking about shorter term micro-credential offerings in response to online educational partnerships with corporate and industry. So I think we're going to see a lot of trajectories as we move forward, but I think it's going to definitely increase.
Thank you, Dr. Stoner, and thanks everyone for this very good discussion. I look forward to us readdressing the specifics of the metrics at our next meeting and really creating those kind of aspirational goals that are focused directly on the quality of the learning experience, which we understand is essential to really raise as we move through this for all of those students. Dr. Robbins?
I hesitate to do this to you, Regent Penley, but, and I want somebody to fact check me, but I think pre-pandemic at the U of A, and I'm sure it's the same way at NAU and ASU, there is a certain segment of the population who choose to be residential students but take all their classes online.
There are. I think Dr. Regier could confirm that too, right?
I think it's almost 10% at the U of A, pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
So I agree with all the comments. It's going to go up tremendously.
Thanks, Dr. Robbins. With that, I'm going to turn to the University of Arizona's request for a new program, an academic program and organizational unit. And I believe the presenter is Provost Folks. So Provost Folks, I turn to you.
Thank you very much, Regent Penley. I too apologize for not being there in person, but for health reasons, I too was not able to come up. I want to raise two items. One is a request to establish a new academic program. We're requesting the establishment of a Bachelor of Science degree in Nutrition and Human Performance within our College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, starting in fall 2023. The BS in Nutrition and Human Performance will prepare students for jobs in the health and fitness industry, which are projected to grow significantly over the next decade and beyond. Currently, we don't have an all-encompassing degree at the University of Arizona that focuses on the science of nutrition, physical activity, and lifestyle behavior modification, which is aimed at confronting the challenges associated with preventable chronic diseases. Students will take courses that prepare them for the American Council on Exercise certification in personal training and health coaching, and they'll be prepared for subsequent graduate level studies in the fields of nutrition, exercise physiology, athletic training, medical sciences, as well as in the Doctor of Physical Therapy program that will begin enrolling students in fall of 2024. Now, the second part of this request is a request to establish a new academic organizational unit. The University of Arizona is requesting the establishment of a new unit, which actually is the renaming of
Pardon me, Provost
Africana.
Folks. Could I ask you to pause just a second and see if there are
Yes.
any comments about the new degree program before you go to the unit?
Absolutely.
Any questions or comments, members of the board? Just a compliment.
Terrific addition.
Thank you very much, Regent Pacheco. Just a compliment to Provost Folks for the additional assessment measures for that program. You've gone beyond just the tests and grading of case studies to a whole program assessment. I just compliment you on that. Please proceed.
Terrific. Thank you, Regent Penley. All right. Our second request is to rename our Africana Studies Committee to the Department of Africana Studies within the College of Humanities. A committee organized around the Scholarship of Africana Studies has been operating at the University of Arizona since 1971, and the Africana Studies program began offering a minor at the University of Arizona in that year, and then a BA in Africana Studies starting in 2005. Africana Studies supports the university's strategic plan by preparing students with the skills and mindsets to lead in the fourth industrial revolution, and by supporting and strengthening the university's commitment to equity and diverse communities, and significantly by contributing to research on both global and local topics related to Africa and the African diaspora. As of spring 2022, the Africana Studies program has 13 tenured track and career track faculty who teach courses in the program and conduct research and public service in their areas of expertise. This effort is very broadly supported on campus and will give appropriate standing and status to a highly functional and productive academic unit that already exists on our campus. happy to take questions on that item also.
Thank you, Provost Folks. Questions or comments from members of the board? If not, I move that the committee forward to the full board for approval of the University of Arizona's request for a new academic program and to establish a new academic organizational unit. All those, is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Any abstentions? The motion does pass. I'm going to turn now to Provost Gonzalez from Arizona State University to present a new academic program. Provost Gonzalez.
Thank you, Regent Penley, and good to see everybody today. So ASU is requesting a new degree that we're very excited about. It's a BA in Applied Business and Technology Solutions. It's a degree designed to provide immediate access to business coursework contextualized by the work experience of students. The degree will be open to all who meet university admissions requirements, which is different than most of our bachelor's degrees in the W.P. Carey School of Business that have more stringent admissions requirements. It provides a customizable program to meet individual learner goals and offers upskilling opportunities to students already working. So in this degree, for example, we are not trying to train accountants. However, the students will take courses from our accounting faculty in accounting, as well as business analytics, computer information systems, economics, finance, management, marketing, process management, and business ethics courses, and then directly connect what is taught in the classroom to their working environment. And many will come in already in a working environment, and we also will be connecting those who don't have that up with internship opportunities. Applied internship courses are built into the curriculum to enable students to put what they are learning into practice, and emphasis will be added to allow students to customize the degree to that particular working environment. This program meets employees and employers' needs by improving accessibility to business classes, by utilizing fewer prerequisites and scaffolding skill development in diverse academic and professional contexts. We expect that we are excited by this because it fills a need that we're hearing from the broader community about a need to upskill workers, particularly in many of these areas, but in the business analytics area. And we imagine students will use this to advance their career trajectory and careers that they've already chosen. We also expect there are many other majors across campus who probably want to take this as a second major so that they're entering fields with that business acumen and skill set. The learning outcomes will include students thinking critically about a business issue and applying concepts and applications to problems and to propose and formulate solutions. Students will effectively communicate their understanding of a business situation, and students will complete an applied project to demonstrate understanding of their business concepts and business intelligence and software solutions. We are requesting that this course be approved for both in-person and online delivery. Thank you. And I'll
Thank you
take
very much,
questions.
Provost Gonzalez. Yes, questions? Regent Dave.
Thank you, Provost Gonzalez. As a BDA student for 4 weeks, I'm excited to see this. I think it's going to be a great degree. I just wanted to ask one quick question, which is, as a student coming into ASU, and I asked this because I was in this situation, whether you're a freshman or a sophomore, an underclassman, and I'm in WP Carey and I'm looking at computer information systems, business data analytics, and now this new degree, what are the differentiators that allow me to kind of pick, hey, I want to go this route versus that route?
I think it has a lot to do with degree of specialization, and people who really, for example, want to hone in on finances would take the bachelor's degree in finance, or those who want accountancy would do that. So it's really a matter of being a generalist with a lot of business skills, or really wanting to specialize in particular domains of business that would have a kind of greater expectations around both the requirements to get in and the kind of sequence of courses that you would take. So we need good advising on that. Yep.
Other comments or questions from members of the board? Regent Manson.
Thank you. So my understanding is that you expect that this program is going to be largely online with people who are coming from the workforce, certainly with experience, likely with a degree under their belt in many cases already, or at least a portion of a degree. I understand that completely. What I'm interested in is if you're offering this in person in the WP Carey School, this feels to me like a business degree without the requirement to meet the entrance requirements for the WP Carey School. So I'm curious as to how that flies, because it seems like a way to get a business degree, which I'm not against, but the way university admissions works at ASU and many other schools is that you apply directly to the school of your choice as a freshman. So you are applying to the WP Carey. If you don't have the qualifications or are not accepted to WP Carey, it feels to me like you have an end run here to go get a business degree from WP Carey.
I do think it provides options to students who want to go into business and who are not able to pursue particular pathways. The degree itself is an applied business degree, which is very different in the world of business understanding. And certainly these students wouldn't be able to have access to things like licensure in particular areas of business. So it is an alternative degree that students, could pursue. Yeah.
So is there current opportunity, if you are not accepted to WP Carey, so you come in and you're accepted to the School of Life Sciences, and I don't know what the names of the schools are, I apologize. Do you currently have the ability to take a minor in business without qualifying to enter the WP Carey School?
You do have the opportunity to do that. And we do have another degree, so the bachelor's degree in business administration has the same admission standards as the university. So we already have an option for students to take a business degree that doesn't have the more stringent admissions requirements of some of the other business degrees. So we already have that different level of admissions requirements. So this is another option.
So you, in the bachelor's in business administration and this one would both be bachelors that are awarded by the WP Carey School to students who were not accepted to the business school originally? That's the option for them.
Yeah, it's another option. Students who don't meet those requirements can apply to these other pathways. Yep.
Thank you very much, Regent Manson. Regent Brewster, did you have a comment or question?
Chairman Penley, I just was looking, it's a bachelor BA versus a BS, correct?
Yes,
So one of the
correct.
differences, I
Yes.
think, there from
Yes,
entering that school with that degree in mind, this would be a BA.
it would be a BA in an applied business degree.
With an understanding of the concerns that Regent Manson raised, it's been my experience that business recruiters are pretty sophisticated about whom they're recruiting and will understand the difference in these degrees. I do appreciate your explanation, Provost Gonzalez, about who is the target market for this particular degree, which I think, as I said privately to you, I thought wasn't so clear in the write-up that the board members received about the degree. And I agree with Regent Dave that an opportunity for liberal arts students, engineering students, science students, and others to get an exposure to business without necessarily altering their career plans for engineering or some other area, I think is a good thing as an outcome to this. So I anticipate that the university will clarify to recruiters and make sure that my suspicion about their sophistication is indeed confirmed, that they will know what they're getting when they hire these students who happen to be non-business majors, but have a specialization in some entirely different area, plus the business. If there are other questions? If not, I move that the committee forward to the full board for approval of the Arizona State University request for a new academic program. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion does pass. Every year, we look at qualifying examinations for high school and high school teacher incentive bonuses, and Mark Dinky, sitting beside me here, will present the changes to those approved courses. Mark?
Thank you, Chair Penley. Yes, each year, the board is required to approve an updated list of qualified examinations for the purpose of awarding schools and teachers additional funds. The list is reviewed by the universities and the board staff to ensure course equivalency alignment across the different examinations. This action is necessary to be in compliance with a legislative requirement that the approved list is sent to the JLBC and the ADE each year. There's only one exam that is new to the list this year. It's an IB exam in History, Asia, and Oceania, which involves a study of a variety of types of Asia and Oceania history. The complete list of examinations can be found in item 7A in pages 1 and 2 of your committee materials, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions or comments? If not, I move that the committee forward to the full board for approval of the list of qualifying examinations for high school and high school teacher incentive bonuses. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion does pass. The next item on our agenda is a proposed revision to ABOR Policy 6-201, Conditions of Faculty Service, and this is a first reading. Mark, are you presenting this, or is Dr. Comrie presenting? Dr. Comrie?
Thank you, Regent Penley. So Regents, this is a policy change that is aimed to address a gap we actually have in policy for the job titles for professors. So right now we have a number of titles. The classic tenure track titles are assistant, associate, and full professor. And what's happened is that we have parallel titles in the non-tenure track areas for things like research professors and clinical professors. But it turns out that over history, in the teaching specialty for non-tenure track professors, those titles typically used to be lecturer, senior lecturer, principal lecturer. Those titles have become outmoded. The market has moved on to recognize that the professor name as part of the title is important. And the universities brought to us, led by NAU, but all three universities are signing on to this. And I think the provost would like to make some brief comments when I'm done. What we'd like to do is propose, as in the language you've seen in the materials, that we add the title of teaching professor. And this is important not only for the recruitment of new faculty who are in the teaching track, but even for the retention of current faculty. And so if we can add this language, as you'll see, it parallels those functional titles in the policy already. It's just a simple addition. I think it'll be important to recognize the role of teaching faculty, who frankly are among the largest contingent across all the faculty at all three universities, and we've talked about a lot of that here today. And I'll, if with Regent Penley's agreement, I'll hand it over to the provost for some comments.
Perfect. Thanks, Dr. Comrie. Provost Pugliese.
Thank you. We appreciate your entertaining this proposal. The idea for this proposed revision came from work and dialogues that have been going on at Northern Arizona University really for years, and accelerated over the last year in part because of the growing numbers of faculty that we have in the legacy titles of lecturer, particularly, who are very essential to our teaching mission and very valuable contributors to the strategic agenda of the university. I charged a task force this last year to take a close look at the titles that we had in place for various categories of faculty and to look at national practices, to reflect on the significance of that for our talent management. That is, as Andrew pointed out, our ability to recruit and retain the highest quality faculty to serve our students. That task force came forward with a recommendation that we adopt this title. And then that led to a dialogue among the three universities and provosts about the value of those titles at all of our institutions. We think this will bring us into alignment with national practices. It has symbolic value to faculty because of the impact of the title or the word professor in the title that was, basically not present for those that were in the position of being lecturers as compared to our clinical professors, our practice professors, and research professors, as was mentioned. So we look forward to being able to use this title to recognize the great contributions that our teaching-focused faculties make to Northern Arizona University.
Thank you, Provost Pugliese. Provost Gonzalez, any comment?
Just briefly, this presentation was quite good and I think covered the issues very, very well. One thing I will say is very independently of NAU, we had also formed a working group this fall around the same issue and also did a, national evaluation of teaching titles and came to the same conclusion. And so when we compared notes, we realized that, the timing seems really right to be able to do this for our truly excellent teaching faculty who we want to make sure we honor as important members of the professoriate who contribute so much to all that we're doing.
Thank you. Provost Folks, any additional comment?
I would only like to echo the arguments that were made in favor of this change to policy by my fellow provosts. I think it's an important move for the university system to take together, and I fully support.
Thank you, Provost Folks. Members of the committee have had a chance to review this change in policy. Are there any additional questions or comments from members of the board? If not, I move that the committee forward to the board for first reading the proposed revisions to ABOR Policy 6-201, Conditions of Faculty Service. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion does pass. The next policy that we'll review has to do with the accommodation to the Arizona Promise Program. It addresses ABOR Policy 4-323E, and I'll turn to Dr. Kuhn for her presentation of this item.
Thank you, Regent Penley. We have redrafted the proposed language to allow for flexibility for the institutions to award additional gift aid funding above and beyond tuition and fees. As you know, the Arizona Promise funding can be used to fill up to the gap on tuition and fees. And we have determined that we want to ensure that if there is any need greater than that and the institutions have the ability and the budget to do so, if they choose to award students above and beyond that, the past language was preventative of that, and we want to ensure that we have language that allows the institutions the flexibility to manage their financial aid as needed to achieve their goals in enrollment.
Perfect, Dr. Kuhn. Questions or comments from members of the board? Regent Manson.
Thank you. I just have one comment and hope on this. I hope that we are planning to have consistency from all three universities on how this is applied and managed, because I think what we're trying to do is avoid this competition directly by financial aid. And so I'd like to have, if it's not consistent, I would like to have a further discussion on how the universities are implementing this.
For the Arizona Promise funding, it will be consistent. How it is awarded, we have identified the specific criteria for awarding the Arizona Promise funding based on the student's Pell eligibility, if they're a new incoming student, full-time, et cetera. So I believe, I'm sure, positive that the institutions are awarding the Arizona funding all in a similar manner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Manson, for raising that issue. I've also spoken to staff about some concerns I have with regard to this issue of awarding the Arizona Promise Program. My concerns go to how we're dealing with financial aid beyond merely tuition for the Pell eligible students who are typically the ones in the Arizona Promise Program. As I have reviewed letters so far, I note that universities tend to lead with total cost of attendance is $20,000, and for you, your family who can't afford to go to school, by the way, we're going to give you a tiny piece of that. So I think we need some real work by the universities, and I'll be talking with staff additionally about how we address not only the concern that Chair Manson has raised, that we are consistent in really doing this, but we also look at how we marshal financial aid, which I know the universities already do, to really support these students, but in a way that gives them a letter that encourages them to take advantage of this, when a parent might well say to that student, I know you want to go to school, but we can't afford it. So let's figure out a way that we really entice that student to attend our universities rather than discourage them with the communication and how we deal with the broader issue of financial aid. So I'll be speaking with staff about that. I know that they'll be then coming back to presidents and provosts and really looking at those broader issues so that we have a coherent program in the state that really takes advantage of the Arizona Promise Program and really raises our overall attainment rate, which has been the intended overriding goal of this board for some years now, since Regent Ridenhour began to address that probably 5 years ago. So with that, any additional comments or questions about what Dr. Kuhn has presented? If not, I move that the committee forward to the full board for first reading the proposed revisions to ABOR Policy 4-323E, tuition waivers, scholarships, and institutionally supported financial aid programs, student financial aid. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Any abstentions? Hearing no one opposed or abstentions, this motion does pass. With that, we're going to turn to item number 10, proposed revisions to ABOR Policy 4-203. Who's going to present that? Sam.
Good morning. The ABOR staff is proposing revisions to our residency policy to comply with federal and state law. Federal and state law expanded the residency, the award of residency to veterans and to also their survivors and dependents. It was enacted by Senate Bill 1119 and has an emergency enactment, and so we would like to comply with law, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Council Blevins. Questions or comments from members of the board? If not, I move that the committee forward to the full board for first reading ABOR Policy 4-203, requirements to be considered in determining an individual's residency classification for tuition purposes. Is there a second?
Second.
Hearing a second, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? The motion does pass. And with that, this committee is adjourned.